Hello, uh, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are on the world. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of CTO Roundtables. We continue the discussion about the cloud and the cloud complexity. We talked about it last time, and we got a very positive feedback about it. So thank you for that. And I hope you guys send more, also negative if you want. But we also got a couple of requests that maybe we should go with a little bit more about the examples and the stories of real life things. And so this episode will be more about not talking in a practice about to talk more about using a cloud in practice than in theory, and so that I will try to unwrap it with our guests. So that's why I invited a couple of very experienced cloud users and experts today. Let's maybe start from the bottom up. So we have Andre Neubauer. I hope I pronounced it right. CTO of the Trusted Shops and the tech advisor in general. So Andre, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Yeah, as you said, like I'm currently with Trusted Shops, acting as a CTO. This is what I basically did for the last 10 years. So helping startups becoming grown-ups, scale their business. What else can I say? Like I'm in the industry for 20 years, started as a software engineer, have a technical background. Yeah, and in regard to our talk today, have quite some experience with cloud projects, cloud migrations, and have an opinion about that.
That's great. Good to have you here. We also have Michał Smoliński, CTO at RadPoint. So I do a bit about what RadPoint does and what's your role there.
Hello. RadPoint is in the medtech space. Right now, it's in a scaling phase. We're delivering cloud-native systems for radiology and diagnostic imaging. So we're supporting hospitals and patients. My role involves mostly overseeing the work of several engineering teams, system design, site reliability, a lot of observability metrics, trying to ensure that we meet service SLAs while keeping the costs in control. And these days, there is more and more compliance, data protection, cybersecurity matters as well that interest me.
Mm-hmm. And we have Kenan Karamehmedovich, partner solution architect at AWS. So you're a solution architect for AWS partners, right? So what does this mean?
Exactly, and a great job on pronouncing my last name. Thank you. Yes, my name is Kenan Karamehmedovich. I'm a partner solution architect at AWS. What do we do? I mean, we're basically solution architects, but there's the partner part to it. So we work with partners. Our customers are our partners. So whenever they have issues or, if we need to support them in in their migration to the cloud, as far as funding goes, and through different phases, there are 3 different phases: assess, mobilize, and migrate. So we basically hold their hand throughout the whole journey and help them out with whatever questions, issues, challenges they might have during that journey. I've been with AWS a little more than a year and 2 months now. So yeah, great company, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for having accepted the invitation. And I know that your specialization, your vertical is observability, right? Which is kind of
it's a horizontal.
Horizontal. So I just heard that Michał also says that observability is something that he does. So it's also kind of important stuff in the cloud, having observability. And I'm the host today. My name is Marek Gajda. I'm the CTO of the Software House. We provide custom software solutions, specialized in web and cloud architectures. And we also have tons of questions and stories from our clients about the cloud. So I can also come with some insights. Okay, so the meeting is 1 hour long. There is a chat window. So if you want to say hi on the chat, or ask any questions, please feel free to do so. We'll try to answer any question you come up with, and just feel free to also discuss anything there. The meeting will be recorded for future use. So also like greetings to the people in the future from the past. We are in April 2023. And okay, so let's start. And so I thought that maybe we should first go with a little bit of a poll. I tried to do a very quick poll on the LinkedIn, but maybe you can also start it here. If I might use our beautiful audience to also ask for maybe the same question. About are you satisfied with a migration to the cloud? Because what I see is that it's not even the matter of if we should migrate to the cloud, but rather how this migration went and how it works at the moment. So feel free to answer this little poll. The one that they did on LinkedIn goes like that. Okay, this is what I expected. But also I know who is not really so happy about the cloud at the moment. And this is a gentleman, Mr. David Heinemeier Hansen. Maybe you know this story. I will paste the link in the description of the video, so you can read it. So please don't read it right now. David Heinemeier Hansen, also known as DHH, also known as the god of Ruby on Rails, and the lead developer of the 37 Signals, which is basically Basecamp, you probably know the platform, announced a couple of months ago that they are leaving the cloud, and they justifies this, and there is some reasoning about it. Here, I see that he runs a little bit of a blog about it, which is kind of interesting as well, because you can see that they have some trouble later on with trying a different solutions. But what they say is that they are kind of fed up with the cloud, and they think that they can save up to 7 million in the next 5 years by going on-premise. And by on-premise, they mean that they really want to build their own data center. And my idea for the warm-up question for this call was maybe to talk a little bit more about how do you see cloud, what is your definition of the cloud. But then Michał yesterday said that, hey, maybe this is too boring of an introduction, and Andre come with this article. So I thought that, hey, this is maybe a nice excuse to talk about how to define cloud in this certain case, because when I'll just put it down. When I read it, for me, it is a lot about their understanding of a cloud as a leased hardware or having just a servers. And I think that the cloud is much more than that. And this is what I wanted to ask you. What's cloud for you and what it isn't? And what do you think about this case, Kenan?
Me personally, yeah, I read the article, and yeah, I mean, he's kind of sending a couple of messages there. I mean, he's saying that cloud is good for certain cases, it's not good for other cases. It's if you're starting off, you just have a new project that you're starting, you don't know how it's going to pan out, then cloud is perfect for you. If you have spiky traffic, it's perfect for you. Even he talks about his Hey project that he started, and I think he said that they expected 30,000 users within 6 months, but they ended up having 300,000 during the first 6 weeks. And this would not have been possible without the cloud. I did listen to the podcast that he had, where he kind of elaborated a little bit more on, you know, what they're doing now by moving back to on-premises and having their own data center, which I was a little confused about, because in terms of data centers, when we talk about at AWS, we say, you know, when we mention availability zone, then that's one data center, and you can have multiple availability zones. I don't know how they're handling high availability, for example, for their Basecamp or Haze software right now, if everything that they have is running in one data center. So it's a bit confusing, really, when reading that. There's a lot of open questions for me that I would still would like personally to ask them, you know, how are they handling that, all of that now, you know, running the software just in one single data center. So
yeah, and I think that it's still not only about having a service. This is at least what I think. It's cloud is something more than having a server. What do you think, Michał? What the cloud is and what it isn't?
I agree, and I think that that's the whole point. For me, cloud is mostly software-defined infrastructure, network, and services with strong API foundation that we can use to automate provisioning of everything. And also, no cloud is complete without the range of services at different levels. I mean, including infrastructure as a service, the lowest level, platform as a service, and software as a service. Because don't get me wrong, but in my opinion, 37 Signals has simple requirements. It's a simple project that no human life depends on it. That means that in terms of data durability, for example, what could happen if they lost data? Virtually nothing. I mean, of course, their company will be at stake. Well, this is unfortunate.
I used them, and I will be pretty pissed off.
No human life, no human life depends on it. It's not healthcare. It's not, I don't know, critical service in terms of, I don't know, power generation, feeding people, providing healthcare or government services. It's basically important, but still just a business system. That means that for example, the costs of creating infrastructure for maintaining proper data persistency, data durability, and all the durability guarantees that they need there was some cost. For example, for us, because we work in healthcare space and human life depends on what we do. As simple as that. Our requirements, not to mention the compliance requirements that we have from various regulatory bodies all across Europe, when it comes to managing the healthcare record, our requirements are such that implementing them without using ready-made cloud services will be prohibitively costly. So that's what defines cloud for me, that I can pick and choose. For certain services, we can go and use the simplest, the services that at the infrastructure level that are super, super cheap. And then really cloud brings no additional value. It's just the vehicle for computation, and that's it. And you look actually everywhere for the cheapest and most flexible option. However, when it comes to, for example, things that require data durability, this is when we approach for AWS in our case, and we ask them for help with platform as a service or software as a service level offerings like S3 or RDS or managed Elasticsearch Cloud, Elasticsearch service, and whatnot, because we compare what will be the cost of recreating this on our side. And up to now, and we're still in a explosive growth right now, it's clear that it's better to get it from AWS. That's one thing. Second thing, that 37 Signals, maybe they don't mention it, but it's super important for us. It's difficulties in hiring proper talent. It's not easy to get people who really know the stuff and to get them when you need them. We're a pretty small operation anyway. Our organization is just, I don't know, 40 engineers maybe right now. So it's not easy for us to get the talent that we need at the moment when we need it. Somehow by going into the cloud, we can we don't have that problem. So for me, that are the most important things here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's also kind of funny that he said that cloud is good at the beginning, but later on not, because from what I heard a lot is that clients tend to say the otherwise. So, hey, we have a simple small project now, so let's not use the cloud. And when the time comes, we can use more of cloud services. What do you think, Andre? What's your take on that?
First of all, I need to say, Michał really nailed it. Actually, like the definition, what is cloud about, and like why there is maybe still a reason to stay at the cloud, even on like even in like 37 Signals case. On your question, I would say, yeah, for sure. Like you can always start somewhere else, right? Like the first version probably starts on your PC, on your machine. But like for me, if I would need to define cloud in one word, for me it would be enabler, and that is actually also the reason why I would start very, very early with cloud, because like I would say it's like there is for sure like it's no free lunch, right? If you have security concerns, right, you need to care about that also in the cloud. But if you just want to spin up some services, just want to prove an idea, just want to get customer feedback in the fastest way possible, I would raise the question, why not using cloud, right? Because you need to maintain it. Therefore, I think, especially during the first steps, right? Like, so you build a new future and you build a new product, you start a new company. I would always start with that. So with the cloud approach, if things get like, let's say, I would not say stable, but if things get more mature, right? Might be also that 37 Signals, Basecamp and so on, like they have a very like predictable business, right? So maybe for them, it's actually all around just cost savings, right? If you enter that phase, for sure, right, there might be reasons to leave the cloud. But if like other than that, like especially during the first steps, like I would always challenge that. And for sure, there might be good reasons. Like there's no cases like the other, but like the majority, I would like advise in my role being an advisor to companies, I would say that start in the cloud, right? Because like it gives you all you need. Doesn't need to be a large cloud provider. You could also go with a small one. But as Michał said, right, like automate the stuff, and like it's just like virtual infrastructure, and it's like it's there with a fingertip. By the way, I like the comment of Jessica. To me, the cloud is like the keyboard and the display of a computer. That's it, right? It's very easy to access.
Yeah, but as we said last time, is the conclusion of the last episode was that it's easy to start and to learn, but hard to master. There was this there was some idea behind it, and Michał, you started mentioning that you as a Redpoint process some medical data, and basically you are in the med tech, which means that it's a little bit more sensitive that let's say a normal business, and you probably had some concerns or legal challenges that you had to go while moving to the cloud. It's still like processing some sensitive data. How does it look like? And what's your experience with this?
Initially it seemed like a crazy idea. When we started, it was well before GDPR was put in force. So it was basically a gray area, and there wasn't. Cloud was a new I was a new kid on the block at the time, and nobody really knew whether whether it was possible or not to keep data there. We decided that we will go into cloud because we were just barely starting and we didn't have a paying customer at the time. So we said, okay, yes, let's try the cloud because it's easy to provision infrastructure. We don't need to take care about it. We can just focus on software development and we'll see later. Then the GDPR came, and suddenly it became clear that existing data protection laws, which required pretty weird things, like, for example, being able to tell exactly which rack shelf contains the computer that basically keeps physically personal data stored there. They no longer are enforced and are required. What counts is audit trail, the reason for processing data, and so on and so on. So all of that enabled the virtualization of the place where the data gets processed. So of course, we had a lot of back and forth with our legal advisors to double check what are the requirements, what's possible, what not. And it turned out that everybody said, like, there is nothing in the law that prevents you from doing it. There is basically very limited body of knowledge because there were almost virtually no cases brought to the court to decide on this. The law is pretty simple. Law says that basically as long as you ensure that data never leaves European Union or broader European economic area, as long as you know what happens to that data, that you know all your sub-processors and everybody satisfies certain technical or organizational requirements, it's fine, you can do it. And these days, more and more customers, even in public space, say yes to that solution. I think the pandemic changed everything overnight, because suddenly it became clear that the needs for the healthcare, which was under tremendous pressure at the time, were such that only cloud-based systems could provide the service. Because suddenly we were setting up new hospitals within a blink of an eye. Those hospitals, the temporary hospitals, would need some infrastructure and software services. And for example, we were able to deliver that for one of the temporary hospitals within 8 hours, something that is not possible without help from the cloud. So it changed. The pandemic changed everything. These days, more and more customers are migrating to the cloud, even, as I said, in the public space. I don't see any legal issues here, nor our advisors. So looks like cloud is here to stay, also in the healthcare space.
Yep. Yeah, that's you mentioned pandemic. That was kind of interesting times, and it changed a lot. And do you have any pandemic stories, Kenan or Andre, about the projects that helped it somehow?
I personally don't. I wasn't with AWS during the pandemic, so I can't really speak to that. I don't know. What about you, Andre?
Yeah, unfortunately, me not as well. Like, I heard a lot of things, like people need to spin up stuff because like unfortunately I was not working in the e-commerce sector anymore there, like, or was I was just switching from like a well-known player in Germany to a fintech business. But I know a couple of people where they have been very happy already back then, that being in the cloud, because like for them it was easy to increase capacity, right? So that for sure is like was one of the benefits, right?
Yeah.
I would add on top of that, if I may, because
Sure.
there's the time of pandemic is one thing, but unfortunately we also are witnessing the war, and that also changed the game quite a lot, and in a very tremendous way in our space, because the war means that Polish hospitals, for example, are under intense threat of cyber crime and cyber attacks, and we've seen several cyber attacks, mostly ransomware, on top Polish hospitals, and the take home from this is that should they be running services in the cloud, off the cloud, these ransom attacks most probably wouldn't be possible. That's one of the things that were the ultimate argument in the discussion what cloud can offer here, because the cybersecurity is hard. Cybersecurity is super expensive, requires top talent. It's not easy to do when you're a small organization, not to mention a lonely hospital that can afford only very, very limited IT talent to support the operations. Suddenly, moving to cloud for them means that they are protected, and they are somehow they are being carried on our shoulders, but also on the shoulders of bigger guys in the town. I mean, in our case, it's AWS, because we work in concert to provide the security for our customers' workloads. So I think that this is something that was a really game changer here.
And something that we stress a lot here at AWS, the security, especially security, is a shared responsibility model. So, you know, we try to make it clear to the customer right from the beginning. Just because you're in a cloud doesn't mean you're secure. Just because you're in a cloud, AWS is not going to keep you secure. It is a shared responsibility model. We have a graphic that exactly depicts for what is AWS responsible and what you as a AWS customer is responsible for, because we cannot make every micro decision for you. So you have to have certain level of knowledge on how to keep the infrastructure secure in the cloud. And we give you the tools, but you have to decide what needs to be encrypted in transit, at rest, and so forth and so on. So there's some decisions that you have to make, and AWS will give you the tools to do that. So
this is a very important topic, and I think it's also like important to manage expectation. I'm absolutely with you. Like it gives you like some kind of, like, so to say, really ground security. But if like security, if you want to be really secure, it's your responsibility, full stop, right? Like, so it's your business, it's your responsibility. And one thing I like also, like when I was working for one e-commerce company in Germany, like we faced quite some DDoS attacks and other attack vectors. So at the end of the day, what really helped was not AWS itself, for sure, right? As said, ground security, like traffic handling and so on, but the huge ecosystem behind, right? And I think you should not forget about that. So there are really large vendors really caring about bringing their software and services to the cloud, and it's natively integrated with AWS or like the other cloud providers. And I think this can become a huge benefit, especially if you are under attack. I cannot share like details here, but like I faced some situations, and it's really nice to have the right support at hand, right? And this is, I would not say that would not have been possible with classic infrastructure, but like being in the cloud, I think it's just an API call away from you. So definitely something I can share.
Yeah. Also, if you do it on your own, you have to think about it first, right? You have to think of all of those ideas that somebody will do you the DDoS attack, right? And what if you just forgot about it? and it happens, right? So this is the stuff. My VP of technology had someone interesting finding. I want to run it through you, Kenan, because you're like a AWS insider. But he found out that there is a strange correlation between the security and the price. So he thinks, because he's also an expert in cost optimization, and he found out that actually if usually when people have a very expensive and unpredictable expenses on AWS, it's because they didn't make a good security things. And his theory is that the more secure, the more you thought you put into to secure the AWS or any kind of cloud, the less you will pay. And do you think this kind of correlation?
Hold on a second. So the correlation that you're saying, the more you put into security in the cloud, the less your monthly bill is going to be.
The less your bill gonna be.
Yeah.
So you can basically hit two birds with one stone with this. That you can you can secure your app and both optimize it on AWS. This is at least his theory. So I just wanted to.
That's true. I mean, we have the well-architected framework and the pillars in the well-architected framework, and if you follow them, then yeah, your infrastructure is going to be optimized. You're going to hit the security, and then it just kind of comes down, or comes down from that point on. So if you just make stuff secure, if you right from the beginning you bake in security and you follow the well-architected pillars, that yes, you're going to have a highly optimized system, and your bill should be at least a lot less at the end of the month. So
my take on this is that because I somehow agree with that. It's indirectly I mean, there is a correlation between these two. Apart from well-architected framework, which is basically a process that guides you, I think that the more reason for that move could be probably because what I observe is that whenever we talk about security, we do the internal, very deep technological review of what we're running. The whole point is always to reduce the surface area for potential attacks. So the less you're running, there are the fewer points that you can be attacked on. So thinking in terms of security means that you can't really treat a particular service, whether it's from AWS or any other cloud vendor, as a kind of black box. You really need to get to understand it, how it works, how it correlates to other services, and all these very deep technical discussions ultimately end up with what are we going to do with this? And one decision that is always on the table: let's switch it off. We don't need it, or we can run it in a different way, or because suddenly you learn more and more about what you're running and what is supporting your workloads. So I think that's why maybe when you start your review of your infrastructure with a security mindset, you end up doing it with the accountant mindset, because you suddenly start seeing services that you don't understand. Something that was launched half a year ago, and suddenly, I don't know, reservation was expired, and you think, hey, do we really need this? Should I make the reservation again for it? Or maybe you can just switch it off. Is it still needed? And so on. So I think that might be one of the reasons why indirectly doing security can impact positively your bill.
Yeah, the security, it forces you to keep an active inventory on what's running on your systems. You cannot just have stuff that's running and you're not aware of it. Then just by default, you're making your system not secure because you have services that you're not aware of. So
Yep.
Yeah. So as the topic is expectations versus the reality, we already mentioned two things. One is that people, maybe they are, I don't know, advertise, or they think at the beginning that it will be cheaper or most cost effective moving to cloud, and that it will be way well secured, right? But what you guys say is that basically it still depends on you, and it will not automatically be cheaper, and it automatically will not be more secured, right? And the other things, Andre, you can think that the clients just think that they will get automatically, but actually they're kind of surprised that there's still a lot of things to do.
Very good question. I think effort, like really time invest in managing your cloud. So as I mentioned, there's no like free lunch, right? Like you still need to care about like your attack surface, like security aspects. You need to care about like cost management, right? You have maybe some reservations and so on and so on. So definitely, right? Like, so if your plan is you move to the cloud, like, and then you don't need your ops department anymore, right? I think this is like this is a false statement. So like, but I would not say like people are surprised by that. Like all migrations I've seen and I've worked on, like it was we have been very aware like that costs will go up. And maybe also that like timeline will be exceeded, and maybe this is something like, right? So usually migration take longer than expected, because like during your migration you will find out, what about this service, what about this data, what about that connection? Then you realize, okay, like maybe your cloud or your architecture is not really supported by the cloud, right? Like, so you maybe need, like, that would cause external traffic is expensive, and so on and so on. So you need to do adjustments. I'm still a big fan of lift and shift migrations, because like they tend to be faster, right? And or like the other way around, like migrating your infrastructure while like transforming your architecture while migrating your infrastructure is like something like a black hole project. Would never do this again. Like still, right? Like, so if you move stuff from A to B, like could be that at the destination, at the cloud, like things are different. So you need to adapt. Yeah.
This lift and shift is also a never-ending story, and I think that for me, I compare it to when somebody tells you that you should move to London because this is a city of great opportunities, and you move to London and rent a flat and say, "Hey, where are those opportunities?" Right? So this is like the beginning of the adventure for me, right? And it's good to have it, but I'm not sure if it's from the very first day gets you any benefits, or you think otherwise. Ken and Andre, Michał.
Are you talking about the lift and shift approach?
Yeah, and so what's next? It's basically I have a tons of clients that they do the lift and shift, and then what? And they are already like a little bit. Their expectations are that something will happen, and usually what they see is that the cost is just raised.
Yeah, of course. That's to be expected. I mean, if you do lift and shift, I mean, you cannot expect, the way you had it running on-premise, that it's going to be, just because you're in the cloud, it's going to be cheaper. There's certain ways of doing things in the cloud. Then you can start and optimize your systems. You can make it more cloud native. You can refactor. You can start using, let's say Lambda, for example, or Fargate, or something that the David here doesn't say in his blog. You can experiment a lot more being in the cloud. You can fail fast. So this is, all of these points is something that you cannot easily do on premises. So lift and shift for the start, and then experiment your heart away. Try different stuff out. Try all the new technologies that we offer in the cloud, and then you by definition, we almost always see that the price, or your monthly price of using the cloud will go down over time. So
yeah. So what you say is that you should constantly adapt to the
exactly
to the
we have.
reality.
Yeah, we have over 200 services. I mean, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, we had half of that. The services keep coming, and being in the cloud, you have to, it's going to keep you on your feet. You have to constantly thinking of how to optimize your system, how to take advantage of all the different technologies, current or future ones, and utilize them to, make the journey in the cloud cheaper, while being more performant and more experimental, and yeah, so.
So I promised some examples, so I have to squeeze some of them from you. So any examples of using cloud services, or maybe doing any pivots or adapting the cloud?
I can
carry on.
Michał.
I was
Please.
about to say that not from me, because we've got this unfortunate position that we've been building on the cloud native system from day one. So I can't add to this discussion.
Yeah, and this, I think, this is one of the things which makes me very happy, right? Like back in the days, like say 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? Like there was just one way, like to get to the cloud, migrate your stuff to the cloud. In the meantime, right? Like, so cloud got so popular that actually a lot of companies already start there. So there's no question anymore to migrate, to shift your stuff, because like lift and shift, like it's a lot of like, it's hard work, right? And you end up with a like with the same result on a different infrastructure. Then at that point the work starts, right? So like you need to be very aware of that. But what I can share, like without like naming any company, right? I know a company like who tried it 2 times, like moving to the cloud, and they try to migrate their architecture while moving to the cloud, because they assumed, right, like we want to hit the same cost level, and they have been very like cost aggressive, like in with classic infrastructure. So that was like quite a challenge, and they failed 2 times because of the complexity of the project. And then we just did like a lift and shift migration. And like I would not say we succeeded. There was another event which caused different actions, but like definitely, right, if you need to migrate your stuff, I would always go for lift and shift, or maybe you can also split your infrastructure and have something like a hybrid approach, and like bring your stuff and then like develop from there. It's way easier, like to have like one complex project and like combining 2. Also in regard to like resources, commitment, budgets, and so on and so on. So definitely small steps. And then also in regard to learnings, right? Making some experiences and then apply best practice to the next project. So maybe also not start with the most complex ones, but something which is like also not important, right? It's a side project, but everyone is happy, right? If you succeed, and then you start with the more complex ones. Yeah. But I can also share, maybe like, let me share another story. Like if you ask for stories, I can share some. Like one of the companies I've worked for, like they faced peak traffics, and it was always an issue, because like it was classic infrastructure. It's hard to say like I need more web servers like in 2 days. Right, like sometimes it works. Like there are also other hosting providers who offer then virtual machines and stuff like that. But like this was really one of the benefits. And if you face peaks about like 10 times as high as like normal business, right? Like, so really peaks, then being in the cloud is very easy, because like you can automate this stuff, right? Like, so there's, as Michał says, like it's infrastructure with an API. You could say like, we know when we will do advertisements, so we know when traffic will peak. So let's make sure we have enough infrastructure at that point available. Back at the days, that was classic EC2 instances. Like nowadays, it's already different. But like there's so much potential, and they used it to like still like serve the customers under high load with very good response times. So that was like out of the box a benefit after their migration.
Yep, that's a great story. Thank you. We just had one question that it's about the role of an architect in the organization. So Jessica says that this is underrated role, and basically we leave developers alone with the cloud. It's slightly connected with a DevOps culture thing that is also going on. And we should go with sorting out this complexity level first. So like my take on that is that usually I saw a couple of companies that they just made their best developer and architect. And this is not really it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the best choice, because this is someone that has to have this bigger picture mindset, and not always the best developer is the best architect. But what's your thoughts on this, Michał? And do you have an architect in your company?
No, we don't have the software architect. In none of my companies that I was ever running, we had. That's because I think that being able to do the system design is a prerequisite for becoming senior software engineer. I mean, engineers are people who are tasked with solving problems. When we do systems in the web that need to work at scale and support thousands or millions of transactions, one of the basic skill of the software engineer, I avoid term developer. For me, this is software engineer because it focuses on the problem solving ability. So for me, one of the basic skills that a senior software engineer or principal or staff engineer should have is ability to design systems. I mean, by taking the big problem, splitting it down into smaller problems, understand the complexity, the requirements in terms of capacity, non-functional things, performance capacity, and so on, and delivering a solution that is basically a system that is composed usually of small pieces. This is what we call cloud native. For me, these days, senior engineer is not somebody who mastered the programming language. I mean, I know that this is maybe a bit of a controversial thing, but this is what really works for us. We don't require from our senior software engineers proficiency, the book level proficiency in programming languages. We need super sharp problem solving skills. And one of the skills is designing systems. We adopted more like Spotify approach. Like there are some, there's a time when the whole team gets focused on doing more like system design and architecture things rather than delivering features. And then we just, once we are happy with that, we focus on features again. We're running, deliver features, and then back again to reflecting on what architecture we have, and is this supporting our requirements? That's our approach on this.
Kenan, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I raised my hand real quick. So I did the development stuff. I was a software developer, software engineer for over 12 years. Made it to the senior software developer title, or senior software engineer. But usually how it goes with software projects, well, you start something and then you split it up, and then you concentrate on something. You have your own part of the this monolith that you're, in my case, it was mostly monoliths, but you have your part of the monolith that you're responsible for, and that's all you care about, and that's complex enough. And I remember when I first opened up the book to study for the Solution Architect Associate, AWS Solution Architect Associate, and I just saw the big picture of a lot of things, which, yeah, we talked about it, but there were, there was discussion about it. It was brought up at one point or another, but it was never required learning for me. It was, okay, well, this is the part of the system you're responsible for. You're going to develop it or you're going to maintain it. But once I started studying for the solution architect, then I saw the big picture. Then suddenly a lot of stuff started clicking for me. And then you start thinking like an architect. You get out of the details and you start looking at this 10,000 feet picture of how do things fit together, how, and you don't get that opportunity as a developer or as a software engineer a lot.
Yeah. Andre, want to add something?
Yeah, like I like the definition of Michał. Like we also following this approach, right? At the end of the day, right, I would expect this skill like to be part of a team. But on the other side, you need to have this alignment on an organization, on a company level, right? Like what direction you want to go. So like even if you do not have an architect, there needs to be something like a system architecture. There need to be something like blueprints. There might be also like you need to have some tech radars. You need to have some alignment, what is in, what is out, right? What you can allow, what you can use, and what is not used. Other than that, you will end up with a zoo of technologies. This is what I experience. So whenever like I would not like. I work for companies where people took over a dedicated role being a software architect, as well as companies having like a tech board, something like that. I think both is working fine. Like it actually boils down to the skills and to the alignment from my point of view. And for sure, if this is not in place, however you like set it up, you will run into trouble. You will run into trouble, especially the larger the organization gets and the more decentralized your architecture gets. I think this is important to understand.
Yeah, and what I also see, in this topic of expectations versus reality, is that cloud, you have to have this special cloud mindset. At least this is my opinion, that it's a slightly different kind of engineering and thinking. And what I also see is that not everyone sees it in this way, that they think that okay, it's moving to the cloud is just yet another abstraction layer, or yet another just a vendor that will provide us hosting, right? But actually, I think that this is also what Jessica said about that all her senior software developers, engineers, sorry, that don't know the well-architected framework, is because you have to be in the cloud mindset at some level as an engineer, but also as a whole company. And this is something that you probably don't know when first moving to the cloud, that you actually have to change your mindset as well. What do you think, Michał?
I fully agree. The mindset is everything, and it should. Successful cloud adoption means that the mindset should be not only among the engineers or people who are running the software, but also at the board level and finance level. For example, at the right point, the costs of the cloud are no longer the opaque cost of general IT infrastructure, which means nothing, but we just turn them into the markup that we put on each of our customers. So we have somehow we have ways of measuring how much of the cloud is consumed by each of our customers, and we can split the costs according to certain keys, and to assign certain costs of the cloud, certain portion of the cost of the cloud to each customer account. Then we know. Then no longer it's like, opaque cost that is basically a heavyweight or dead weight on your company. Suddenly it becomes a moving cost of your sales, like costs of goods sold. It changes it's all the change in the mindset and paradigm. The other example is that that's why we never done this lift and shift. Initially, when Rockpoint was created, we had very simple system that did mostly what we are doing right now, only on a much smaller scale and some subset of functionalities. And it was small enough that we decided that there's a single opportunity to rewrite it completely, as long as it is very small and it's rewritable, that we can do it. And we rewrote it and as a cloud native system put in the cloud. If we haven't done it yet, probably now it will be impossible to do, because the whole organization grew around the cloud mindset. Like, for example, how we split the problem domain into various small parts that can be deployed, how we utilize to our advantage the architectural patterns that are deeply encoded into the way for example, AWS services are designed, because these services are designed in a very special way. Once you understand this, and once you start using it the way they were designed, of course, they are flexible. You can use them in many ways, but there's certain kind of thinking behind these services. And once you start using them in that way, things become easier. Once you try to treat it as just a piece of infrastructure, of compute infrastructure, you suddenly encounter various obstacles, difficulties, and say, hey, this is not optimal, right? So I agree. The mindset is everything. It changes the role of the architects. It changes the way we account for costs. It changes the way we put responsibilities among different team members. Fully agree.
Yeah. And
but I would also say, maybe let me just add to that, is like this will go away, right? Like, so because when I was like, I don't know how old you are, but like I just became 42. Like, so the answer to all questions, by the way, like when I started software engineering, there was no like functions, lambdas, there were like event stream, like all we had was like servers, databases, and a network, right? So it's probably also a problem with which will go away with the new generation, right? So, and honestly, I can share. I like in my current job, my current company, I'm working with some very experienced like infrastructure people. Like they never saw like classic infrastructure. All they know is AWS. And like for them, like this it feels natural, right? To talk about containers, Lambda functions, event streams, and so on, right? So it's probably also just like, it's probably just a problem. I would not say of us, but like of the mature generation, right? Like who needs to adapt. And if you look at our industry, right, it's not that old, right? There's a high likelihood like this is going to change again and again and again. So you just need to adapt. And therefore, like Miho is absolutely right. It's all around the mindset, like, right, like being open to inspect, like adapt, like accept, like that things are different and they might be better, right?
Okay, but yeah, I totally agree, Andrew, that this new generation has a completely different mindset. To create something really, really fast as a monolithic architecture and just call it an MVP. And when I talk to these young guys and say, hey, can we maybe start with something simpler at the beginning because this is only the MVP? They reply, yeah, you're right. Let's just create a serverless lambdas functions on the back end, right? And some quick Verso frontend or hosted on S3 in React, and this would be simple one, right? Whereas for me, this is the most complicated. So yes, that's true. Kenan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I come from the world too. Yeah, I would just put together a monolith and you'll have your front end, but now the new guys are, let's involve containers, let's put EKS, serverless stuff, and that's the way they think. So a lot of the stuff got abstracted away from how we used to do it back in the day. So, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, they are learning with the new technologies, and you know they have more possibilities than what we used to have. So
yeah,
and trust me, in 20 years, like our successors will meet in a podcast or whatever, right? And they will talk about like Lambda functions and like the old stuff, like the way we did it like in the past.
Oh, this classical way of development, and engineering. That's true. Okay, if you want to learn more about the product design, I actually also encourage you to see our other podcast, which is Works 5 for me, which is more for about a digital product creation. I think Andre also participated a little bit in this, so you can hear his voice there. So this is more of business and more about creating the digital products. Fresh podcast. If you want, there will be some link in the description as well. We are run of time, so it was a very good discussion. Thank you guys a lot. And so time flies by very quick when you have fun. So thank you. As previously, if you have any feedback for us, please just leave it in the comments or just write to me. And thank you again to our guests. Good to have you here. Thanks to the audience, and see you on the next event.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.